2023 has been a year that shook the world, dotted with conflicts, big and small, bloody and gory, and mostly reckless and senseless. We entered the year with just one full-blown conflict in Russia-Ukraine. But we are exiting the year with at least one big war escalating into a bigger regional conflict, 4 other major conflicts, and another one in the process of exploding any minute. Let's start with the biggest one at the moment. The Israel-Hamas war that has already turned the entire Middle East into a tinderbox. The decades-old Israel-Palestine conflict erupted into a major confrontation when on October 7th, Hamas decided to poke the proverbial bear, in this case Israel. Hamas's deadly attack on Israel on October 7th that killed about 1,200 people led them to abduct 250 people of different nationalities. That set into motion events that would turn the whole Gaza region into a graveyard. 21,000 people in Gaza are dead as we speak.
מה גדולה הזוועה? מה גדול הכאב? אנחנו נלחמים בכל העוצמה, בכל החזיתות. עברנו להתקפה. כל איש חמאס הוא בן מוות.
With Iran-backed militias like Hezbollah and the Houthis targeting Israeli positions and the US vowing to stand with Israel till the end, this one has already escalated well beyond the Gaza Strip. The Russia-Ukraine war, which began in February 2022, continues to rage, with both sides struggling to seal a decisive victory. While the year started with much optimism over a highly anticipated summer counteroffensive by Zelensky's forces, Ukraine did not manage to win back much ground through the year. In more heartbreak for Ukraine, Western support for the war-ravaged nation seems to be dwindling, with the US also now struggling to send more and more funds as per Kyiv's demands.
Фінансової допомоги. Працюємо дуже сильно над цим. Я впевнений, що Сполучені Штати Америки нас не зрадять, і що те, про що ми домовились Сполучених Штатів, буде виконано повністю. Що стосується Європейського Союзу, великі ставки були, грали всі на великих ставках, ми досягли однієї перемоги щодо Євросоюзу, щодо 50 мільярдів. Я впевнений, ми все це вже досягли. Питання зараз.
Meanwhile, Russia has ramped up weapons production and continues to launch offensives in several parts of the country.
Потери войск украинского режима. Известно, что при наступательных операциях потери примерно 3:1. Это такая классика. Но в данном случае это значительно превышает эти классические показатели.
However, in a dramatic event mid-year, the Wagner mercenary group launched a mini mutiny of sorts in Russia. But the revolt was swiftly controlled and Wagner chief Yevgeny Prigozhin mysteriously died months later in an apparent plane crash. Now to the Indo-Pacific, where a very belligerent Xi Jinping continues to threaten Taiwan, vowing to reunify the island with mainland China by force if necessary. China stepped up military pressure on Taiwan in 2023 while stopping short of an outright invasion. Beijing has been sending ships and planes to encircle Taiwan and mounting more sophisticated military drills simulating a blockade of the island. In September, Taiwan's defense ministry counted a record number of Chinese fighter planes, 103 to be exact, flying in the airspace around Taiwan. And that was all in just one day. In a recent address, Xi Jinping said Taiwan's reunification is inevitable. And in what was seen as a subtle message to the US, the Chinese president warned against any interference. Experts say that the Taiwan issue could explode at any moment. Will that year be 2024? Nuclear tensions have ratcheted up again on the Korean peninsula, with the US and South Korea making threats that any use of nuclear weapons by the North will result in the end of the Kim Jong-un regime. The US also sent a nuclear-powered submarine to South Korea to underline the message, leaving Kim enraged. But North Korea seems undeterred and continues to test ballistic missiles capable of, yes, even hitting the US mainland. Kim Jong-un, or Rocket Man as former US President Donald Trump infamously referred to him as, has said that Pyongyang would restore all military measures it had halted under a 2018 confidence-building agreement with South Korea. While the United States is involved in several proxy wars around the world, the American region itself is not as secure as the US may want to believe. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has signaled that he is considering invading neighboring Guyana over the disputed Essequibo region. Apart from the historical claims of both nations, the Essequibo region holds significant oil reserves. The people of Venezuela are immensely emotional about the Essequibo region, which they consider was unfairly taken away from them. Maduro is looking to cash in on this emotion in the 2024 election. An overwhelming 95% of voters approved of the nation's territorial claim on a huge chunk of neighboring oil-rich Guyana. This has raised alarm in other South American countries, as it could provide Maduro with the justification to invade Guyana. But after some deliberations, the presidents of both nations decided against using force against each other. But this may just be a war postponed and not a war averted. The military junta in Myanmar is fighting conflicts on several fronts throughout the country of Southeast Asia, posing the greatest danger to its hold on power nearly 3 years after its brutal takeover. Experts say the deeply unpopular junta is losing strategically important border towns, key military positions, and vital trade routes at a scale not seen in decades. In recent weeks, powerful armed ethnic militias have teamed up with resistance forces to mount major new offensives. An alliance of 3 potent ethnic rebel forces in the northeast of the country launched Operation 1027 in late October. This sparked a national campaign to seize control of towns and regions in Myanmar's north, west, and southeast. The Saleh Belt of Africa, stretching from Mali in the west to Sudan in the east, was catapulted into global spotlight in 2023 by a wave of political upheavals, humanitarian challenges, and security threats. The region's first major upheaval of 2023 arose in Sudan, where violence erupted in mid-April between the Sudanese armed forces and the paramilitary rapid support forces. This triggered a massive wave of displacement that has since ripped through neighboring countries. The capital, Khartoum, the troubled Darfur region, and other parts of the country end the year ravaged by fighting and mass displacement. Additionally, the recruitment of foreign fighters from across the wider Sahel region has led to fears of the conflict spilling into a wider war. But it wasn't just Sudan. The international community was caught off guard in July when a coup in Niger marked the latest in a series of military takeovers in the region. The development underscored the fragility of governance structures in the Sahel, raising questions about the efficacy of international efforts to promote stability and democratic institutions here. Now, the conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan over the disputed Nagorno-Karabakh region has a long, complex historical perspective. But the self-declared Republic of Nagorno-Karabakh will cease to exist from 2024. This after its president signed a decree dissolving state institution following its defeat by Azerbaijan. The Azerbaijani victory in September triggered a huge exodus of ethnic Armenians living in Nagorno-Karabakh and marked the end of decades of conflict and potentially the end of centuries of American presence in the region. The year 2023 was volatile to say the least. Will 2024 be any better? That's the question. Will the world finally see peace in the coming year, or will prevailing tensions escalate further? We'll wait and watch.